Our red and blue political roundup, the president stood firm on his demand for a border wall Thursday, taking his case to exactly where he wants it built. He traveled to McAllen, Texas, which sits on the U.S.-Mexico border. The visit comes as we near week 4 of a partial government shutdown. While there, the president blamed Democrats for the stalled negotiations and again raised the idea of declaring a national emergency.
Now, if for any reason we don't get this going and they're not going to act responsibly and they don't mind death and crime and all of the problems that they cause by not having a barrier, then you will see what happens with national emergency, which I can do very easily.
Meanwhile, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi accused the president of mischaracterizing the situation at the border. She went on to say Democrats have no intention of losing this fight.
Frankly, when the president talks about this being a national security issue, no, it really isn't. It's about a policy that is discriminatory as to where people are coming into this country. I think the president will have problems on his own side of the aisle for exploiting the situation in a way that enhances his power, but not to go there. Let's see what he does.
White House columnist for The Hill, Niall Stanage, is in Washington. Niall, thanks for joining us. Do you think the president accomplished what he wanted to accomplish at the border on Thursday?
To the extent that he wanted to dramatize the issue, then he probably did. I mean, the mere fact of a presidential visit to the border provides footage, provides attention. It's using the bully pulpit. I don't think, though, that he really changed the terms of this debate, Elaine. We're at an impasse here. President Trump wants more than $5 billion for his border wall. Democrats are adamant they're not going to give it to him. That has been the basic contours of this issue since the very start, and I don't think that has changed in any way.
Well, I want to play some of what Republican Senator Lindsey Graham had to say Thursday. He was working on crafting a compromise to try to incorporate border wall funding and DACA.
I have never been more depressed about moving forward than right now. I just don't see a pathway forward. Somebody's got to, get some energy to fix this. That's what's so frustrating. If you could get people in a room, you really could solve this in about 45 minutes.
So, Niall, is that an indication that Republicans are feeling the pressure and maybe moving toward a compromise with Democrats?
It is, yes. I mean, we have seen Republicans begin to express misgivings about the president's approach. We're up to around 5 Republican senators who have called for the government to reopen. Now, we do have to clarify that in the case of Senator Graham, he is not one of those 5.
Right.
He has remained pretty much foursquare behind the president on this issue. And in fact, Senator Graham just this afternoon was really calling for the president to declare a national emergency on this issue, which is a whole other gambit.
Well, right. So, in fact, the president doubled down on that threat to declare a national emergency during his visit to the border. What legal fight does the president risk there?
A legal fight would be inevitable were he to go this route. Democrats have said that plainly. Senator Kamala Harris, a potential 2020 candidate, said so explicitly in media interviews this week. The legal case would in essence be that the president would be overstepping his powers, declaring an emergency where one doesn't really exist, and seeking to circumvent Congress. That's the Democratic case, or the case from the anti-Trump position. But the president believes he can win that legal fight. He believes that any president has wide authority to declare an emergency. So the legal outcome is by no means guaranteed. All that is guaranteed is that the declaration of a national emergency would face legal challenge.
But is there a way, Niall, that this threat of a national emergency could actually serve as a catalyst to finally reach a deal to at least reopen the government?
Yes, absolutely. And the people who are advocating such a move see that as its main advantage. Put simply, the declaration of a national emergency would relieve the pressure on Congress to find a solution. So the fact that the president and Democrats remain pulls apart ceases to be an issue. You simply reopen the government. The president asserts that he can build his wall through a declaration of national emergency. Yes, Democrats would challenge that in the courts, but you enable the government to be reopened at the same time as the president can say to his own base that he has not caved on this topic.
Right. It would allow sort of both sides to save face. We'll see if that develops. But sticking with Congress, the president's nominee for Attorney General William Barr met with Senate Democrats Thursday. Republicans are insisting he would not hinder the Russia probe. What else needs to happen for Democrats to confirm him?
You know, I think that Democrats are going to be pretty skeptical of any nominee of President Trump's for this position. Their skepticism is going to be more pronounced in the case of Mr. Barr, who wrote an unsolicited memo to the Justice Department last summer in which he was clearly skeptical of Robert Mueller, in which he warned against overzealous prosecutors, in his words. So, in essence, what we have here is Democrats doubting that Mr. Barr would let Robert Mueller's probe proceed to its conclusion without being meddled with. Now, he has said he will. Republicans have said that he will enable Mueller to do that. There's clearly a partisan division on this topic, but it seems probable that he can be confirmed.
Well, the House announced Thursday the president's former attorney, Michael Cohen, will testify before Congress in February. It'll be a month before he begins his 3-year prison sentence. Why would he want to testify?
It's not entirely clear, other than Michael Cohen has clearly burned his bridges to the president and to the president's supporters in a very incendiary fashion.
Very incendiary.
So he may just decide that there's nothing to be lost by going before Congress. Obviously, this is one of the manifestations of democratic control, that it's Democrats who have extended this invite that Mr. Cohen has accepted. It's going to be a very awkward day for the president. I'm sure we'll see some tweets, as we often do in these circumstances. Michael Cohen obviously was an attorney and fixer for President Trump for more than 10 years. So there are a lot of embarrassing things that he could say, and that's the whole purpose of the exercise as far as I can make out.
Well, what does this signal about Democrats' intention now that they're controlling the House?
They clearly are going to make use of their subpoena powers and their powers to invite people to testify. Mr. Cohen, I don't believe, received a subpoena. He was just given an invitation which he accepted. But there will be other people who are more reluctant to come before Congress, perhaps business associates of the president or members of the president's family. It seems quite probable that Democrats will use their newly gained powers to compel testimony from these people. I think we will see President Trump almost certainly react badly or angrily to that, and the whole process will likely deepen the kind of partisan schisms we see in the country at the moment.
People undoubtedly will be paying close attention to that testimony. Finally, Niall, Senator Bernie Sanders issued an apology Thursday. It comes after multiple claims of sexual harassment against staffers on his 2016 presidential campaign. What could this mean, if anything, for Sanders' prospects in 2020?
It's clearly a bad story. I mean, this is a serious issue. It's one that appears to have festered on the 2016 Bernie Sanders campaign, and by its very nature, it harms him with progressive voters, even though, of course, the allegations are not at him personally. They're pertaining to campaign staffers. The other broader picture is that Bernie Sanders, unlike in 2016, has a lot of competition for the more left-wing vote in a Democratic primary. We have Elizabeth Warren running. We have a number of other candidates who could compete for those progressives who rallied to Senator Sanders' banner in 2016. So he's already facing a more complicated landscape, and this certainly makes it more difficult for him and creates an additional barrier that he will have to overcome.
All right, lot to watch in 2019. Niall Stanage, thanks so much, Niall.
Thanks.